Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this rainy day, or hopefully it's rain where you're at. If have any UP friends, I heard there's some snow and ice in the works. But otherwise, hopefully you're in the right place as today is the final session. Wow, that went quick on our joint series with Sallie Mae. And I'm representing Michigan College Access Network today. But we're going to give just another maybe 2 or 3 minutes for everyone to get settled, work through Zoom issues, get in from that last meeting. So if you do have any questions, and I'll say this a few times, please put in the chat. The way that we have this webinar set up is there is not an ability to unmute. If you would like to engage in dialogue or a direct question, please let me know. I would be happy to unmute you in order to ask. We're happy to make this as conversational as possible. Just a few barriers with the way the technology is set up on here. But otherwise, we'll give it about till two after to get started. And thank you all for joining us. I guess as another point of order, and I'll mention this again, if anyone is sharing on multiple screens, or I mean multiple people on a single screen, we'll give you some special directions in order to make sure you have your sketch credits. Just want to level set that is perfectly allowed. We'll just have an extra step in order to make sure you get your recognition for professional development. Um, but otherwise, for anyone new that's joined us, hopefully you're in the right place for the MCAN and Sallie Mae webinar. We'll get started around 10:02. Just give folks a chance to sort out any of their technology issues, etc. Just for anyone that just joined us, we're going to get started at 10:02. Just like to give a little space for any technology issues or folks running from that last meeting. But hopefully you're in the right place for the MCAN and Sallie Mae's webinar. And as I said that, it rolled around right on to 10:02. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time as know there's not a lot of that to spare. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us bright and early. And I was going to say bright, but if you're in Michigan, it's probably raining, snowing, or any other part of our lovely Michigan spring. But welcome to our last event in the Sallie Mae and MCAN webinar series. And today we're going to be talking about how America succeeds after college. And we're so excited to be joined by the fabulous Jenny Chandler, who will be guiding us through the material today. But before we get into the content, I just want to go through a few housekeeping pieces. I'll also mention this on the end. But for today's webinar, there will be up to one sketch available. If you did not request a sketch when you registered but are attending live in this session, please email sketch at micollegeaccess.org with your name, the name of this webinar, which is How America Succeeds After College, and your PIC number. This is particularly important if anyone is sharing a screen right now, as the sketch credit process is tied to that registration. But we want to make sure that everyone who is here in one way or another is able to get that credit. And if you have any questions or lose this email address, literally any MCAN email address, and we'll make sure that you get to the right place as we work pretty closely as an organization. Now, for anyone that is joining us through a recording or maybe those live want to share this with a friend, one sketch credit will still be available for participating or watching the recording. However, in order to receive that sketch credit, you will have to complete a quiz, which will be linked on our website along with the recording and this presentation. It usually takes a few days for us to get that loaded up, and so if there are any delays, feel free to reach out and we'll let you know what the current status is there. Um, if you are watching live with us right now, you do not have to take this quiz. You'll just have to make sure that if you did not register individually, that you let us know in order to receive that sketch credit. And these sketch credits should be available until June 11th, 2026. Otherwise, you didn't come here to listen to me ramble. So, without further ado, let's pass it over to Jenny Chandler, who is the Director of Relationship Management at Sallie Mae. And thank you, Jenny.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. I really enjoy doing this webinar series with MCAN. And I was very excited that we were able to do it again this year. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. So hopefully you can all see my screen. What we are going to talk about how America succeeds after college. And this was a fairly new survey research study that we have done at Sallie Mae. We've done, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with how America pays for college, how America saves for college. Those are the ones we started about 19 years ago. And we've added some new surveys in. And so this survey was really interesting to me at some of the findings. Okay, I'm having, okay, there we go. Sorry about the delay for a second. We're going to talk about higher education and how it pays off for recent grads. In all, 82% of grads in our study indicated that they were employed either full-time, part-time, or working for themselves. Another 11% are not currently employed, but are looking for work. And finally, about 7% of recent grads are not employed and not searching. It's notable that most grads are employed in a field related to their education. 74% of grads who left school within the last 5 years have a job related to their degree. This does make a difference because we see higher correlation between the feeling of success and being employed in the field of study. That is, grads who are employed in their fields are significantly more likely to feel successful, to view their college experience positively, and to think their degree was worth the cost. And 86% of recent grads who are working in the field related to their degree rate their current job positively compared to 63% of those who work in unrelated fields. And of course, this is all hindsight. We wanted to know what recent grads would do differently in college if they would go back and do it all over again. We gave participants a list of items to choose from, and they chose as many as they wanted to, and an opportunity to write in their own answers. I've got to say that I was a little bit surprised by the findings. The largest category, let's call them regrets, has to do with not taking full advantage of the college experience. 64% of recent grads named at least one item in this category. 35% wish they had spent more time socializing and building relationships. 33% wish they had got more involved in clubs and other activities. 28% wish they had used more resources the college provided to prepare for life after school. And 24% think they should have invested more time in studying. Paying for college was the second category of things they wish they had done differently, mentioned by only 37%. Honestly, it was a lower proportion than I had expected. With that being said, the largest category here was nothing, not enough to find the free money. They wanted to find more free money from grants and scholarship. And this was mentioned by 24% of recent grads. This is a reoccurring theme in all our research that we conduct at Sallie Mae. Families are hungry for more opportunities to make college more affordable and want awareness and access to more scholarships. So it doesn't matter if it's how America pays for college, how America saves for college. That's something that we hear in every research study. An equal amount, 15% and 14% of grads who borrowed said they wish they understood the terms of their loans better or borrowed less for education. And then fewer than 1 in 10 participants wish they had started a less expensive school before transferring, chose a less expensive school altogether, gotten more involved in decisions and how to pay for college, or found a different way to pay for college altogether. Finally, the last category here is grads wishing they had made different college choices, named by 28%. In this category, 18% wish they had chose a different major. The majority of grads thought education was worth the cost, which is definitely key. And it was a high percentage. We mentioned that 9 in 10 recent grads had a positive experience in college. Beyond this, there are a number of other ways this value is evident in the data that we have. And this agrees with the majority of recent grads already feeling successful. Just 14% feel unsuccessful. When it comes to subgroups, there are two I'd like to call out. First is employment, in a field related to their study, and we define that pretty broadly as being employed in a job that is generally related to their degree. Recent grads who are employed in a field related to their degree, and that 74% of recent grads report significantly higher levels of success than who aren't employed in their field. 79% to as low as 44%. To me, this means that success comes with applying for one's education. Second has to do with proactive planning, specifically planning on how to pay for all years of college. Recent grads whose families developed a plan to pay before enrolling were more likely to feel successful than after graduation, 75% versus 54% of non-planners. This is a consistent theme. Proactive planning across broad is associated with more successful outcomes, be it before college with planning for admissions or financial aid aspects of college, or during college. And it's a really interesting, all the different studies that we have at Sallie Mae, that is again a common theme with all of the studies, that planners are more successful, they pay less for their education, they're more confident. There's a lot of things that go hand in hand with being a planner. For recent grads, success is a balance between finances, career, and personal well-being. In our analysis of success, living situation came up as one of the important factors. So I wanted to show where and why recent grads are residing today. In all, 47% of recent grads are living with their parents or other family. 37% are renting, either alone or with their roommates or romantic partners. And 15%, report owning a home. However, as this graph shows, there are many shifts that happen in the first 5 years after graduation. More specifically, the dynamics in the living situation flip. Among grads who left school 0 to 2 years ago, 2/3 live with the family. But when we look at grads who left school 3 to 5 years ago, just 1 in 3 do. Among this older group, 20% already own a home and 44% are renting. I think we've all observed college kids coming back to their childhood homes after graduation, and parents today not having nearly as many objections as to it as the parents of previous generations would have. But this are reasons, why are there reasons for this? We asked and they answered. 66% of recent grads who are living at home said they prefer to save money, and 58% indicated they cannot afford to move out. These are just two most frequently mentioned reasons. They said 36% of grads living at home just aren't ready to move out, especially true among male grads. Most others prefer to stay close to the family, saying it is expected in their culture or part of their family values, or they are taking care of a family member. Grads who feel successful are 3.5 times more likely to already own their own home compared to grads who feel unsuccessful at 27% versus 8%. In fact, owning a home is one of the significant drivers of success we'll talk about in just a few minutes. One of the main objectives of this study was to access how recent grads are feeling about different aspects of their lives today, how they define success, and how successful they feel given in their own definition. And this is what we'll talk about in this last part of the webinar. Putting all these aspects of life together, we wanted to understand how recent grads define success. We pose this question in two ways. First, we ask them to simply type in their thoughts on the subject. And next, we ask them to select categories they most associated with success. Here are a few quotes that are very representative of the types of responses that the grads provided. One recent grad said success is a stable job that uses your education and gives you time to pursue your interests outside of work. Another said it's maintaining a healthy work life balance. And yet another said success is being financially stable and happy with life, or working a job which offers the opportunities to be doing something meaningful and responsibly well compensated for that work. Having reviewed about 1,000 of these comments, three clear themes really emerged most consistently. Recent grads are highlighting the critical importance of financial stability, a career that enables them to enjoy and feel fulfilled by what they can do, and they can earn money and have a good work-life balance. And this is exactly what came up at the top of the list in the closed-ended question that we posted to all of the grads. Most often recent grads associated success with financial health, mental health, and career prospects. It is not surprising that young college graduates associate success with financial health. Financial stability or earning enough to cover the bills and feel in control of one's finances. It's common, perhaps universal desire. What perhaps is more surprising is that mental health plays a paramount role in success. It was the second most selected response. And we heard this broad idea loud and clear in the open-ended responses that the grads provided. It is part in the definition of success for 36% of recent college graduates. This is really underlines the importance of mental well-being among members of Generation Z and beyond. And it really has a meaningful implication of what recent grads are looking for, not just from employers, but from life in general. As we discussed, mental health is a key component of what it means to be successful for recent grads. Today, young college grads are doing pretty well. 70% rate their mental health as excellent, very good, or good. We did notice that mental health rating got progressively better among older grads. 64% of young adults who graduated in the last 2 years rate their mental health positively, compared to 74% of those who graduated 3 to 5 years ago. So things do get better, and that's definitely, makes us all feel much more positive. That said, 40% of recent grads say their mental health is something they'd like to improve. And 50% of recent grads indicate that mental health services would have been very helpful to someone like them when they were in the transition from college to life after, which for many, I know it can be a difficult transition. Now, I'd like to switch gears for a moment and talk about career services and internships and how that you can land a job in the field related to one's degree. Because we've heard loud and clear that the majority of students feel more successful if they do land that job in their related studies. Employed in a field related to one's degree makes a difference, because we see a very strong relationships between feeling of success and being employed in the field of study. That is, grads who are employed in the fields of study are significantly more likely to feel successful, 79% versus 44. To view their college experience positively, 92% versus 84, and to think their degree was worth the cost, 78% versus 51. And 86% of recent grads who are working in a field related to their degree rate the current job positively compared to 63% of those who work in unrelated fields. The bottom line is that, on average, grads who find jobs related to their degrees realize a higher return on their investment in education. So, what does our data show about increasing one's chances of finding a job related to one's degree after graduation? There are at least two things that we've uncovered that can help college students secure jobs in their field using career services and internships. Learning to manage money before graduation, can really set recent grads up for success. And this is something that we hear loud and clear from all of our different surveys is that, students want more information on managing money and financial literacy at, really at any point in the process. Within 5 years of college graduation, nearly all recent grads, 94%, are already pursuing financial goals. The most commonly mentioned goals have to do with savings. For retirement, named by 47%, for a major purchase like a car or a vacation, 44%, or building an emergency fund at 37%. In addition to savings, 38% of recent grads are working towards reducing or eliminating debt, including student loan, credit card, or other types of debt. Accomplishing these goals is made easier if you have the financial knowledge and skills to help you plan, budget, and make solid decisions that get you closer to your goal. This certainly is really persistent topic. I am sure some of these grads, have really changed as of late. Nearly half of recent grads, 47%, borrowed to help pay for their undergraduate degree. At the time of participating in this study, 51% reported owing less than $20,000 and 75% owed less than $50,000. 21% of all grads who borrowed had a college student loan balance of more than $50,000. If you look at the entire recent grad population, 1 in 10 recent grads has more than $50,000 in student debt. The good news is there are 3/4 of these grads feel confident about being able to pay back their loans. 6 in 10 feel they're making progress paying off their loans, and 46%, almost half, don't spend time thinking about their loans. Okay, just a second here. And beyond budgets, what we found is nearly 8 in 10 grads who feel very successful learned the basics of money management before leaving college, while only 54% of grads who feel successful make the same claim. There's more. Very successful grads are also more likely to actively manage their finances compared to grads who feel less successful. For example, they are more likely to check their FICO scores and look for ways to grow and score. more likely to have started learnings about investing, more likely to use financial apps to track their spending and saving habits. The net result is that 8 and 10 grads who feel very successful report feeling confident managing their finances, while nearly 7 in 10 unsuccessful grads feel they are still trying to figure out how to manage their money. By learning about the basics of money management before leaving college, very successful grads start their adult lives with basic tools and knowledge they need to make those financial steps even more confidently. The proactively planning is associated with post-college success. And we talk a lot about planning in all of our research studies. And bottom line, that is consistent with each and every one, that if the more a student plans at any stage of the process, whether when they're still in high school, while they're in college, while they're post graduation of college, when they're in grad school, proactive planning is always associated with success. And the same here is proactive planning is associated with, the post-college success. In past research, we found that planning pays off for families with students in college, like I just mentioned. It associated with higher confidence in decisions and even college completion. It's exciting to see that planning also pays off for recent graduates. The data suggests that grads who feel very successfully were significantly more likely to plan on the onset of college than recent grads who didn't feel successful. Family conversations are a key part of planning. Discussing goals and expectation for the student's education with parents or other adults who are invested in the student's success. Grads who feel very successful reported having early planning conversations with their family, covering not only the college application process, but also how to pay for it. From this and the past research, we know that some families struggle with being proactive, and conversations about finances can change. But they can change and they can be a challenge. There's a lot of emotions wrapped up in these conversations for both students and parents. That said, getting on top, being on the same page about all that builds a sense of transparency, commitment, collaboration as the family works toward a common objective. Successful grads were also more likely to say their family created a plan for paying for all years of college. So just not how to get through that first year. That's something that when we work with families, we talk about having them plan for all 4 years of college or all 2 years of college, and not just that first semester or first year. Talk about the pieces of a potential plan. How to support families who are building a plan as they are starting college is a question to ask. Looking at college holistically, I want to call out another aspect of planning. With more and more students viewing a college education as a stepping stone to a career, an investment in the future, one that will pay off in better opportunities and earnings, it would also behoove us to encourage families to consider outcomes of this college education as part of their planning process. Our research found that recent grads who feel very successful were more likely to use to research the outcomes, including graduation rates, average salaries in their field of interest, the career placement rates of the desired majors before deciding which school to attend. And these are all important things that should be looked at, and a lot of times they're often ignored. A question to ask is, how do we surface and showcase this information so that they can easily find it and they can easily understand it? And I know at Sallie Mae, we try to get all of our tools aligned with some of these things that students should be looking at. As we discussed, more and more students and families view college not as the destination, but a means to the ends. The end being opportunities that wouldn't have been available without that degree and higher earning potential. So it's no surprise then that having at least a general idea of a future career at the onset of college is associated with success post graduation. In fact, 80% of recent grads who feel very successful, they started college with an idea of a future career compared to 63% of grads who feel less successful. Of course, career interests can change, but what we found is that committing to a direction early on can help college experience feel purposeful, delivering higher expectations of the return on investment, commonly known as ROI, help with completion, getting to the finish line. And there's also a relationship with working in a field related to the degree post graduation. Turns out planning for life after college is at least an important or post grad success as planning for college before the student enrolls. So both times in the process are very important. Our research found that grads who feel very successful were significantly more likely to take active steps to prepare for life after college. For instance, compared to less successful grads, recent grads who feel very successful today, they invested the right amount of time and effort in academics. 85% say they agree they did this versus 61% among unsuccessful grads. Were more likely to utilize career services on campus, 44% versus 26%. Had an internship to try out their career and build professional skills and resume, 34% versus 19%. And once out in the real world, successful grads are taking a more active approach to building and managing their professional lives as well. 63% agree they will take steps to build and maintain a professional network outside of work versus 20% of unsuccessful grads. 62% found a mentor who can who can really work with them on personal situations versus 25% of unsuccessful grads. 67% are actively pursuing professional development opportunities in their field versus 39%. 77% have a clear career vision versus 32% among unsuccessful grads. On the flip side, grads who feel neutral or unsuccessful are significantly more likely to feel that they aren't as competent as the others might think they are, 53% versus 26% among successful grads. And report having struggled with the transition from school life to professional life, 50% versus 27% of successful grads. So clearly, there's a significant opportunity and need to support college students in the transition to post graduation. What resources are offered for grads have a successful transition in the real world after college? So they need to look at the school that they are attending and they need to look at what resources do they have for this transition to what they call real life. How are these resources promoted and how are they utilized currently? So we need to find more of these resources and see how they are utilized. Okay, with that, I want to leave it on the slide for just a moment here, how you can learn about this research. And if you're interested in this research, we have a lot of materials available. We have infographics, which are they're really a neat, just a one side glossy sheet of paper, heavy piece of paper that has the statistics. And there are a lot of graphs, a lot of charts. And then also the full studies are available. And you can go to salliemae.com/, How America Succeeds. Again, salliemae.com/, howamericasucceeds.com. And you can also get access to our other studies as well. So with that, I will go ahead and open it up for any questions that anybody might have. I know we normally don't get a lot of questions on this because again, it's so factual and there's just so much data. But I think it's also another important step to look at that we need to look at life after college and what this step means, about mental health, about, finances, about repaying college loans. Any questions? Hey, with that, I can stop sharing my screen. I am still around. I'm still here to answer any questions that might come up. Even if they're not directly related to this study, I'm happy to answer those questions as well. So, Zach, I shared the screen back to you.
Awesome. And we actually did have one question from Joyce in here. I assume your survey just went out to students with current student loans? What's the question?
It did go out to students that had student loans. It also went out to students that had no student loans. So we always try to get a mix. We won't just have art, and they're not necessarily Sallie Mae borrowers either. They are any student we will talk to.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenny. And then we had another question from Jennifer. Can you talk about steps recent grads can take to maintain professional networking connections after initially making them?
They need to work directly with the college or university. They should and do supply excellent resources that they have available, and they have resources that are available after you graduate that you can keep working with. There's resources on interviewing. There are resources on resume building. There are resources on building your reference pool. And again, those resources are available to you while you're in school and as an alum 20 years later. So those are the big ones that you could easily use and you can easily keep using.
Thank you, Jenny. I'll also give a shout out to engaging students in LinkedIn. I sometimes have some mixed feelings on it, particularly with social media being a wild platform, but it does make kind of a strong scrapbook element of being able to document as well as keep those connections, even if they become surface level, but you never know when those connections might be needed. I've found doing a lot of conference and networking in my current role that it often takes place of business cards. So depending on your experience with the platform, worth poking around to start your student on that track, kind of similar to having that resume or cover letter draft can never be too early.
Always encourage students too that, keep or post grads is like once you get your resume built, keep it updated. You
Mhm.
do something big at work or that's very meaningful. Update your resume. So it's something you should always keep updated.
Couldn't agree more. That's so important. Um, and thank you, Lindsay, for the kind comments and there. Uh, And Jenny, definitely take a look as a nice shout out to the content you presented. But before let everyone go, and we promise to stick around for a few more minutes if anyone had any other questions or even just want to chat through. So I'm going to reshare my screen and just cover a few of those and logistics and note some upcoming opportunities with MCAN. So hopefully able to see my screen on here. And we just did questions and answers. So just want to give a reminder on sketch credits here. Um, if you did not request a sketch credit when you registered or are attending on someone else's screen, uh, please email our sketch at micollegeaccess.org with your name of the webinar, which is How America Succeeds After College, and your PIC number. Um, as long as you were in attendance for the majority of the session, even if you had some tech problems and were temporarily kicked out, there shouldn't be an interruption on receiving that sketch credit. But if it seems like there's any barriers, feel free to email that email address and they'll be able to take a look at what happened or didn't happen. Similarly, if you are joining us through the recording, thank you for saying hi and being part of this opportunity. As a reminder, in order to receive that sketch credit for the recording, you will have to complete a quiz, which should be linked directly right near where the recording was posted. You will need to use the password success in order to access that quiz. And it should be about 10 questions long on there. If you're watching live in this session, even if it's on another screen, etc., you do not need to take that quiz. If you did not do the sketch process, you just need to email if you were a part of this live session. And then finally on here, want to just let you know of some upcoming other webinars, which also have some sketch credit related to them. On Wednesday, March 25th, 9 to 10 a.m., we'll have Beyond the Basics Zello success stories. So if you like technology, great session for you. Then on Wednesday, May 6th, from 9 to 10, we have reflection, summer updates, and scaling success there as well. And if you have any questions about these webinars or have some ideas on content you would like to see in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out. Similarly, we had a full host of webinars with Sallie Mae this year. All of them are posted on the MCAN website. So if you're trying to pick up some extra sketch credits but not attend everything, please take a look at that archive. You should be able to just Google MCAN professional development to get to all those links. But if you have any problems, reach out to our main account, myself, or anyone else at MCAN, and we'll get you to the right place. Also, if you are not already on our e-news biweekly updates list, I would definitely recommend following that link to michigancollegeaccess.org /action on there. Uh, this newsletter not only will let you know about professional development opportunities, conferences, it will also let you know legislative updates, political happenings, and other things relevant to educators. So if you're looking for that increased lens but don't have the time to sit on webinars every single day, this is a great summary resource. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this dreary day. We're happy to stick around if you want to ask some questions off the recording or need anything else, or even just want to share some ideas. But otherwise, good luck and thank you for all you do for students in Michigan. Otherwise, take care and good luck. And then just a reminder, if anyone did want to stick around for extended question or chat, please either throw it in the chat, the question and answer, or ask so that we can unmute you as do not have a good unmute everyone option for better or for worse.